Damn, look at these module teams for Inferno clears as well as the hand-holding checklist to make sure that you are guided properly every step of the way. This is absolutely insane. Hey everyone, TimaeuSS here. Welcome to another Etheria restart video, and today we are going to take a look not one but two guides in Junction. That's of course a Never Lucky's progression guide and Taketsumi or Kyoya's beginners to end game guide. So yes, they're both Scarlet members, the guild I'm in on global, and we have a lot to deliver in this video. So it's gonna be a long one, but by the end of this, you will know exactly what you need to do to reach endgame and how to prepare for some of the most difficult bosses, and making sure that you're doing everything right, even if you're a free-to-play player or a whale. So let's get things started. Now, first things first, I do have the complete guides as well as resource compendium that's going to be updated. You can find the link to this homepage essentially in the description down below. It's gonna have links to my YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, alongside the CPT guide list I've done, as well as the launch guides and the official Etheria Start PC client with their 5% discount shop, which will be live when the game launches, alongside just links to the two guys I'm going to be talking about, and of course the codes as well. But without further ado, let's take a look. We're going to get started with Never Lucky's hyperlink guide, because I'm not going to go into too much detail. This will be a separate video for this hyperlink checklist, because it essentially just tells you every step of the way, day by day, if you're max refreshing your stamina, how you are supposed to approach this. But again, this will be a separate video. And yes, Never Lucky from the guild Scarlet, which I'm in, and it was done on CBT on a successful free-to-play account, which was absolutely insane. But the focus of today's video is going to be of course Taketsumi or Kyoya's guide. Now go to his YouTube video and go to his channel, give him a huge thumbs up and a like as well, because yes, he's gonna be making content as well. And like he said, make a copy to utilize the checklist and pair up with Never Lucky's charter for maximizing efficiency. Now, going over this, all right, couple of things. The most important thing you need to know about Etheria Restart in terms of progression is that you are guided every step of the way with the hyperlink charter. Now, you're going to have access to that in-game, and it's essentially checkpoints that the game says you should be at this level, and these are the things you should be tackling. It's going to be very straightforward, and alongside the progression checklist, it's going to utilize a lot of that. You can see that the levels are going to be tied to it, as well as individual key milestones, and that's going to be the #1 thing for this game. The hyperlink charter is super important. Now, in this game, there's also lots of free units that you'll be getting. Now, if we zoom here, all right, you'll see that Liang, the first SSR you're guaranteed to get, is an absolute beast in terms of DPS. She is so important, alongside Ling Luo, the second healer here, you can see on screen. She is a day 7 character that you can do once you complete the event, and it's super easy, the event, so don't worry, everyone will get her. And of course, Gray, you'll start off with him as well, a crit buffer as well as an AoE defense down, super nice. And Kazuya, you can get it from the free box. If you don't pull her from of course gacha pulls initially, you can get her from the free box as part of the store. So you're guaranteed these 4 insane units, okay? And one thing that he does highlight here, it's super important: story. As soon as you unlock it, go into the hyperlink charter, the hyperlink chronicles, get your first clears, and that means clearing stages, bosses. Even if you don't 3-star it, 1-star is completely fine, because first clears often give you super important rewards. And then it's GP outpost, shells, and modules, okay? And I would argue that the EXP farm later on, you might have to do some as well in our testing. Now, GP outpost is essentially the module mats, sorry, not the module mats, the skill mats that you need to use to upgrade your skill levels. And then shells, of course, are the weapons, quote-unquote weapons, that you don't pull for, but you farm for, all right? The signature cones, all of that if you play other games. And it's super important because GP outposts and shells are guaranteed upgrades, right? And that's why we put modules as last, because you're not always guaranteed to farm a super good piece of gear that you can use on your characters. And a lot of times with the first clears, you are given these important modules, so don't worry, you'll be able to progress as a free-to-play player by just using some of these free modules before you farm the higher difficulty ones. All right. And of course, we've got some of the super nice SRs as well. And they're the core ones. I'll go over them very briefly because he's got the explanation here as well. So you can check it out when you use the link. But even though some of them have been nerfed, okay, have been nerfed. Of course, we've got Dinah right here. She is your defense down as well as a single target vulnerability debuff apply, just making your team do insane amounts of damage against bosses. And Kazuya, the red one for Nico Nana, is definitely good as well, but I prefer Marvel. Basically any bosses that's going to be weak to action bar manipulation, which means that you know, they get slowed with a speed down debuff or they get pushed back. Marvel is your man, or Marvel. Someone corrected me in the comments, but he did get nerfed, so his S3 skill 3 is now a 5-turn cooldown instead of 4, and yeah, post upgrade it's gonna be a 4, but previously it was gonna be 3, right? So there we go. And then of course next to him is going to be Kraken, who is a very strong freeze crowd control character that had his freeze skill nerfed a bit to interpret the chances, but that's all right. And then Victor, the one true single target SR, insane, okay? But there's also Diting or Deeting, whatever the sniper's name is, and he's decent as well. And Viper, if you don't have Veronica or Heinrich, is going to be your Aurora stripper. And Sanya with the halo above, yes, she is worse with the nerves, but is very, very strong still, and we definitely will be using her. So yeah, these are the 3 units along with the SRs we talked about. And going over, we also have the permanent summon, okay, which is the standard banner, but there's a selector as well, okay? And the selector, now from our recommendation across both, of course, the guides we have seen, as well as PvE focused, progression focused guides, is that yes, if you are pushing Dokidoki, Realmocha is an absolute beast. She makes Dokidoki just super easy, and you're gonna benefit from her for a very, very long time. Now, I know there's a lot of discussion or arguments about whether or not it is good to use Selector to pull her for essentially just 1 or 2 of the game modes, whereas, you know, pulling someone even the post nerf Tiamat potentially would be a better choice. That's to be discussed. Ideally you get you know, Rosa or other units, and then you can use a selector, but I know that for most of the whales, okay, getting Realmocha is such a big change. But yes, once the game is live, I'll make Realmocha list guides as well for Dokidoki, and I did not use Realmocha in my closed beta test. I used Tiamat, and that was alright, but hey, for Inferno might be tough, alright? And of course we have Freya as well, okay? Overall, she is, in my honest opinion, still super strong. I love how Takazumi here said every other YouTuber has, well, some YouTubers have said that, you know what, she's skippable. But through testing, as a SSR character that is part of the initial release banner, you know, Pity does carry over this game as well, and it's down to 80 now. There's no 50-50. She's so good. Attack buff that doesn't conflict with the other attack buffing stats, as well as action bar push for your team and action bar push against the enemy on top of defense buff as well. She just does so much. She just does so much. Of course, pairing up with Sanya, you're gonna see the Sanya plus Freya do a lot in several team compositions, okay? They're so good together and definitely gonna be worth it as well. Now, these are some of the most insane characters that I can get, and unfortunately, hey, these two are light and darkness. Now, Heinrich is going to be your AoE stripper and also allowing you to apply some crazy debuffs like blocking the enemy from buffing themselves, which is really good for some of the boss fights, as well as Lily, who just makes your main damage dealer so much stronger. And shout out to Vulcan. I know at launch, he's going to be really rolling for Lily non-stop. And some of the other ones that are good, Klaus, going to be able to apply defense down, and now speed down post buff is going to be applied instead of a slow stacking version of the Hackian. It's going to be applied right away. And Tsukiyomi is another good team pusher as well as buffer, increasing our damage output, along with Hellkid, who's going to be able to provide that shield and immunity. So yeah, this is the quick breakdown of kind of the overview part, and now getting to the juicy stuff, all right? And yes, we have the early gearing guide. Now, very important, okay? resource in this game is essentially in the beginning, it may look like you have a lot, but you are going to be super capped on gear upgrades. So definitely do not push your gear above +9 for purple and then +12 for gold and pink. Do not do that, okay? That's the general rule, unless your hyperlink charter is telling you otherwise for some of the stages. That's because as you're progressing, especially through day 1 to day 4, these gears will be outdated super fast. So don't waste your coins, because you are going to be quite short on coins. Even though later on, I've had, I think on day 6 or day 7, 4 or 5, a million coins, you're going to run out. Because once you start farming those red mythic gears, yeah, it's going to cost a lot. So in terms of investment, shells are actually much better, because you can see the modules, when you sell it, you will get 45% of the invested resources, but shells give you 70% refund, which is really nice. And these are guaranteed stats, like I've said, in shells, right? Because they are your signature cones that you farm, and you can inherit the shell stuff as well. So even if you get the one with the wrong set, that's fine, just upgrade it and later on just inherit it if you want to. You don't lose anything. And when you get to mythic shells, you can just sell the old ones, the yellow ones, for 70% off, for 70% refund. So this is guaranteed stats that are super important, and they are quite significant as well. So yeah, shell over gear, especially to the early mid game, because module farming is going to be essentially, gear farming is going to be end game thing. Okay, so you can see the amount of passive effect it's going to provide, as well as being part of the charter as well, for giving you rewards, and super important. Now, great. I have to talk about Gray, because most of you that are watching this video will be building Gray, okay? And the progression, most likely, as we are looking at some of the free characters, is that you are going to be using a free Lian, your SSR DPS, into, of course, Ling Luo, day 7, but before that, Sonya, and then Gray as your secondary, okay, secondary unit. And that's super important, because if you take a look at the early gear unit, secondary DPS Gray is really strong. Use your hand-me-downs from Lian, because Lian's going to be a main person, and then, you know, once her gear is outdated, give it to Gray. Gray is going to do a lot of damage, which is absolutely really important. You'll be surprised how much he cycles. He's gonna do so much damage as well. So yeah, don't build him with like 200% effect accuracy. Build him with damage, and he's gonna surprise you. And between Gray and Lian, you're gonna have a good time with some of the boss stages, and they are just going to melt. And in terms of the other core members, like I said, because you know you've already seen Gray plus Lian. Again, those two free units. And then Freya and Sonya, the combo we talked about. Yes, we can build speed, but as much HP as you can. The right side is basically all HP percentage if you want, okay, to boost her heals. And in terms of Freya, because of the, I would say, slight nerf, you do want one piece of effective accuracy on the right side. Previously, we can just stack HP as well, and or some defense. But now, right side piece, having an effect accuracy is going to be very important. Now, in terms of the team, so these are the juicy part, okay? And we are going to start with the shell teams, because yes, we need to figure out how to improve our shells. As we said, the shells are better than modules since they are guaranteed upgrades for your characters, right? So starting off, the first one that we are going to be farming for a bit of time is going to be the Fabian one, and that is going to drop the Twilight Knight that we saw earlier, which is an important piece, not only because it's one of the first yellow or legendary shells that you'll be able to get, but also even after you start farming mythic, you would like to keep one of it, because look at this. Fully Awakened gives you a defense reduction of 60%, which honestly, this is quite insane, because in fights, if you don't bring a defense breaker, this is a free defense breaker support for your character. So Fabian, you're gonna farm a lot. The Black Fang is there as well. Again, I'll have full videos showcasing this later on, but taking a look at this team, you'll see Freya, and yes, we have Heinrich, or Gray, and with Marvel as well as Lian. I believe in my CBD closed beta test, I essentially did just run Freya with Sonya, and then Lian and Gray. It's a lot slower than this, but Marvel, you can just use whoever, and you definitely don't need Heinrich in this as well. Now, moving on, one of the more key fights that you are going to be facing is going to be Nico Nana, right? So she gains damage reduction depending on the speed difference between you. Now, this is a mechanic that sometimes people forget, so you definitely want some speed down or speed buffs for your team to make it a bit more enticing in terms of the difference. So a lot of times, just slap Marvel in, okay? Honestly, he is so good, and by just having him here, and then Lian, you can use other characters like Freya. If you don't want to waste resources to build another one, that's fine, and it will be a very, very fast clear in that as well. You don't even need to run a healer technically, but again, full teams will be up, but just know that the speed difference is going to be a mechanic that a lot of people forget about, okay? But Nico Nana is starting, is going to be the stage where we start to farm White Fang, which is going to be a mythic shell that we need to worry about. Later on, Sharon, whatnot, it's going to be super, super easy, and you won't be farming her a lot. However, Ho Yan, the Shadow Flame, ooh, this is where we are going to sit for a bit. It has some of the craziest shells like Jackal, which gives you pretty much 100% uptime on speed buff, as well as having shells like Revelation, which just boosts your DPS really, really high. Okay, really, really high. And there are lots of safe options. Look at this free-to-play version of Lian Gray, Freya plus the healer, or you can do with Victor more DPS as well. And Rengo Kutsu, butchering the name, and yeah, never got to test them for Inferno because CBT ended quite fairly soon. And again, we will update this as we go. Now, in terms of the modules, I know why you guys are here. You want to see what the progression is going to look like. So now, if you follow this, right, you'll see that we are going along the path, and then we will, I would say the first difficulty jump is going from hard mode to Nightmare 3. I remember the first Nightmare 3, if you didn't know what you were doing, that's going to be extremely difficult. And then, of course, the Hell 4 jump, and once you have Hell 4, you should know what you're doing, so that Inferno, as long as you have the team and the stats right, you'll be able to do. But let's take a look, alright? So normal to Nightmare 3, honestly, super straightforward. Slap your free team in, alright? We've got Lian Gray, Sonya, and then put your Freya in. And this, again, 2 free characters with a very nice support dual combo, and then plus your 5th member. I use Marvel there, alright, instead of Dina, but Dina just makes the run a lot faster, so you don't need to worry about that. And I was doing Hell 4 completely fine with that team. Now, with regards to Inferno, okay, Inferno has immunity. Inferno has immunity, which means that you're not going to be able to apply, let's say, Dina's defense down with the invulnerability and debuff. So you need your first character to be a stripper that moves first. Now, we don't have a lot of choices, okay? Heinrich is a light in darkness. Veronica is probably going to be the most popular one. And then we do have a new SR in the form of Makoto. It depends on her skill and speed, but she may be the SR premier stripper. Otherwise, we're going to see Viper, all right, especially for Aurora, for example. But they need to go first, and they need to essentially strip the immunity, and then you can go ham with the rest of your team. And see, this is D-Team, by the way, okay? Victor's successor. Now with Doki is different because like I said, for Terramaton, there's going to be the arms that you need to take out first and then moving into the boss. But Doki is 2 waves of 5 mobs. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Ramocha, Kazuo, the one that can sleep the entire team, as well as Sonya, Gray, and Freya. And you can see the cores don't change, alright? And here even, Gray, Sonya, Freya, that's it. Now, your utility is going to be flexible. Dina here, Marvel here, or Kazuo here. And then your DPS, you use your #1 best DPS gear on either Liang for Terramaton, or you're going to use it on Ramocha. So it's really, really, you know, pick and choose and make sure your team fits the fights. And we also have a 0 gear Kraken as well. Essentially what it does is that the Ramocha just has to clear wave 1, and then Kraken will go right away on the second wave and then freezing the entire enemy team. So it's definitely a cool tech as well. And it would take over the slot of potentially Sonya, because you're essentially wiping 2 waves instantly. But if that doesn't happen, you can put Sonya in and just go for a slower one. In terms of Inferno, you can do number 41 to gain more attack as speed buff over Freya for end game, and then Valeria over Sonya for survival, and then they are of course viable choices as well. And last but certainly not least, Aurora. Now Aurora is kind of giving you an early peek at how annoying the immunity is going to be, and you cannot put any debuffs down. So yes, you're going to need your stripper, and you have a few choices here. Heinrich, of course, Viper for the free-to-play players, and you have to unfortunately get Linglo as your healer plus character that can get rid of debuffs on your team as well. And then run a Marvel if you have, and then defense breaker or utility, and then pick one of the DPS. Rosa is an absolute beast in Aurora. Okay, her damage output is pretty much unrivaled. No one can beat her in Aurora. Absolutely insane. So yeah, these are the teams, and essentially you can see already, all right, the most important part is that you are farming the right thing at the right time, and go with again, story into charter into first clears, GP outpost, shells, and modules. Just making sure that you're upgrading characters every single way you can without wasting resources, without wasting too much stamina, and then maximizing the guaranteed stats first. And then going to the, of course, the teams, you'll see that the common theme is that Lian Gray, boom, the duel is there, into Freya Sonya or Freya Linglo. There we go, your supportive duel, and then you have a flex spot, usually in the form of a debuffer or crowd controller, and whatever you need that is going to make the run go smooth. And then last but not least, again, like I've said, this will probably be in a separate video, the checklist that you want to follow. And for Taketsumi or Kyoya's checklist, it's broken down to levels, all right? So for those of you that are not planning to rush everything, because you can max refresh stamina every single day, right? 10 purchases, and maybe if you're a free-to-play player, you don't want to use gems to refresh stamina, then this checklist is going to be broken down into levels. Whereas Never Lucky's, this is based on a free-to-play account that has maxed refresh and use all the stamina pots, which you might not want. But again, this will be a separate video kind of going over everything. Just make sure you're paying attention to the nitty-gritty stuff to make your Etheria restart journey an absolute success. Anyhow, thank you so much once again, and don't forget to sub to the channels of Kyoya as well as Never Lucky. Their YouTube channels are going to be linked. I don't know if Never Lucky will be creating content, but Kyoya is definitely going to. And yeah, great things ahead, both from Scarlet. I'm in Scarlet too, and Vulcan's also in Scarlet. So our guild is currently full, but if we ever are looking for players, or you know what, we may start a casual guild, who knows. But until then, thank you so much guys for watching this video, and I'm so excited for the launch of Etheria Restart, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye now.